So we'll end this section just by talking briefly about the evidence for evolution. There are a lot of sources of evidence for evolution, and the four that we'll talk about briefly are fossils, anatomy, biogeography, and molecular biology. So fossils have provided solid evidence that organisms from the past are not the same as those today, and fossils actually show us gradual evolutionary changes over time. So, of course, natural selection happens over generations. It can be really hard to see changes through time. But looking at the fossil record, and more recently, we can use natural history collections to kind of track through at least the last few hundred years. We are able to measure traits and see how they vary through time. Anatomy and embryology is another way that we see evidence for evolution. And the way we see that is kind of these classic images that we have put together where, like, I have a tibia and my dog has a tibia. And even though they might differ in, like, length, they are still kind of a rough tibia bone, right? And so we see similarities in body plans across closely related animals. And we see that in embryology as well. And we'll talk about embryology in a later week. So, and anatomy and embryology is number 2 on evidence for evolution. Our third source of evidence for evolution is biogeography. So biogeography means like life in geography, life in places, right? So when we see unique things happening geographically and then we see the resulting natural selection implications, that is biogeographical evidence. For example, marsupials, we only have one in the U.S., the American possum, which is like low-key my favorite animal. We only have one marsupial here. But in Australia, there are tons and tons of marsupials. And so marsupials diversified over there after the continent split. And so we see this type of evidence where we have like old world and new world species because of the way that the tectonic plates move and how the earth has evolved gradually over time. Our final evidence for evolution is molecular biology. So molecular structures, not only our DNA, but also like cellular structures, all reflect this history of natural selection and evolution. And so we have a lot of examples of all 4 of these. There are plenty of other videos like on YouTube and those sorts of things if you're really interested in evidence for evolution.